Yo, yo, my sovereigns, what up? This is Boba Fett, uncensored on the internet, with episode 4 of Splinterlands 101. And as I mentioned in the last episode, we were going to be focusing on a specific Splinter for today. And in discussion, if you've been watching and you know Matt, it's probably no surprise which Splinter it's going to be. Which Splinter are we going to be talking about tonight, Matt?
We are going to talk about the best Splinter, the Earth Splinter.
All right. So why is Earth best? What? I mean, you've got a massive collection at your disposal. I'm sure you could play any hand. So why Earth?
Yeah, from the start, I think Earth is, when you're younger, it's all about fire and, explosions, and it's all about the damage output. But I think as you get older, you start to recognise that time is always a factor in things. So my thinking has always been, you see the footage of, let's say, I Am Legend, with Will Smith.
Yes,
and
yes.
He's the only one left, and
Walking the
the
dog.
city is being, the city's being overtaken by zombies, but also nature. There's trees growing
Reclaiming.
in weird spots, and there's deer running down the street. And to me, I've always had that mentality. Since the game started, I've had the mentality that Earth, nature, it always wins, right? You do your stuff, you plot your plans, you live your life, you win, you lose, but you die in the end, and you go back into the ground, and you then become just part of the cycle. And nature always wins in the end. And I think that appeals to me on a lot of levels. It's our powerlessness in a way that we build these great structures, but in the end, these little tiny seeds, they're going to win, right?
Yeah.
Earth, water, all of that is takes that small amount of potential and just chips away.
Yeah, reclaims.
Just chips away like the water on the stone. Eventually it just And so for me, it's about time. You'll always win, and it's ironic then that Llama Cube is one of my favorite sort of.
I hate coming up against that. I just skip to results, especially if they've got that dude on the end. What is it? The cuff or the guy that?
Kron.
Yes. Yeah.
Kron the Undying. Yeah.
That combination.
So Llama Kron is interesting in champion level. I know earlier he gets last stand early on. The Llama gives last stand to whichever card is last on your team.
Mm-hmm.
But so if you have Llama Kron, you're actually doubling up on last stand, which might seem like it doesn't give you any extra benefits. So it seems like it's a bit of a wasted opportunity there, because but I love, I don't have a Kron actually, but I've been beaten by him plenty of times. But I love Llama Cube because of the mind game. I've never been great with the strategy. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then they're going to do this, and then it's not been my forte. But I'm really warming to plotting out how I think the game might go in my head, and then choosing in order to take advantage of that. Things like in the target practice rule set, where you put a ranged or a magic target to be hit in second position, and in first position you put a melee who gets enraged, hoping that they'll use blast, and then your front guy's just going to get clipped just enough to make him angry, and then he's just powering away, retaliating, that type of thing. So your Stone Splitter Orc or your Naga Warrior, so. That's again, they're older cards. So sorry if you're a newer audience and you're mostly with Chaos Legion and Untamed, but there are still
they would still see that
because retaliators. Yeah, for sure.
Would come up against it.
That's something I'm enjoying is now trying to get a bit more strategic in my choices. And what I love about Llama Cube is that there's a real art form because at the end of the day, you're going to assume that for the most part your cube is going to survive to be the last card standing, and he's going to survive to get last stand, and he's going to survive by most of the other cards on the other team being taken out by the noxious fumes before they have a chance to really lay down the hurt. So realistically, the best way to really help your cube survive is to feed it lots of victims, because it has scavenge, right? So resurrect is actually really handy for this, because what you want to do is you want to have your 6 cards. One of them is your cube, so you've only got 5 cards that you're capable of feeding into the cube by giving it scavenge. But with resurrect, you get that one more, because your first unit will die. Then you resurrect it, it dies again. That's twice. That's 2 extra health points that your cube gets, and that gets increased again. That's his baseline. When he gets last stand, then that gets increased again. And it's very often that you'll go from, that'll take you from, say, 17 up to 18, which then means instead of healing for 5, you're healing for 6 every round. You know, so every last bit of health that you can get by other units dying, it really matters. So there's the Spirit Druid Grog is Earth card. He only has 1 health, so keeping him alive is a big concern. But he only has 1 health, and he has Resurrect. So trying to work out in Noxious Fumes, where am I going to put my cube? Where am I going to put my my Spirit Druid Grog? Because with only 1 health, he gets 2 more from the llama, so he's got 3. He can survive 1 round, and then as long as he's not being targeted. But you have to make sure that at least one of your other units dies first, either from Noxious Fumes or by being attacked. So you kind of have to have a low life card up the front. But what often traps me, and this is really funny, I love this, is if the other team is being defensive, you say, oh, well, I've got this strategy and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a chicken up the front, and he'll, you know, and he'll get killed in round 1, and then feed the scavenge of the cube, and then the Spirit Druid Grog will resurrect him, and then he'll die again, and I get two, you know, that's all well and good. But when you resurrect without the poison, right? Because they only start the battle poisoned. So resurrection is a way of cleansing poison off somebody. Now, if your opposing team only has, say, snipe or sneak, right? Now you've got a chicken who's not poisoned and isn't getting hurt. Like, they've got a non-attacker in their first position. And you've got a cube that's meant to be getting last stand by being the last guy on your team. But you can't, the chicken's just there in the start going, I'm helping. Like, just die, man. All I need you to do is die. But the poison's not killing you. The Noxious Fumes aren't killing you. And if they don't have somebody who's going to attack that chicken, and all they're doing is attacking your cube, they can chip away at your cube before the, you know, the last stand kicks in, because you still have 2 cards, the chicken and the cube. So that is it. Again, it's kind of fraught. It seems like when you take on somebody who's played a llama cube and they win in Noxious Fumes, a lot of people go, it was just inevitable. But it's actually quite difficult to pull it off. So there's another one, for example, Epona. Often in lower mana matches, you're looking for your lower mana cards that you can just throw in as cannon fodder, right? For scavenge. You want to fill up all your slots. Epona is lovely. She's one mana, legendary card. She's got a few skills and, you know, help you out. There's strengthen and a couple of other bits and pieces. But she's also immune. I think it's her. I think she has immunity. Yeah, I reckon it is. I have to double check that. So at one point I put her behind the cube and didn't notice. It was either her or a different card that has immunity, which means they don't get hurt by the poison. So again, it's the same thing. Unless they've got somebody who's sneak or snipe targeting past the cube, they're just going to attack the cube, and the cube's going to take it, you know, take the heat. But you never get to last stand because you still have that extra card remaining. So you've got to, it's actually quite a lot more difficult than you might think to maximize that llama cube opportunity and really make sure that it, you know, that it's the last man standing. So usually you can look at the enemy lineup and go, oh yeah, I'm going to be fine. But it's, so it's, and again, that's Earth winning in the end, right? Winning through fatigue. And look, it's, some people think it's, you know, dishonorable or in some way, you know, not cheating, but also not really a glorious victory when you've, you know, you just got a cube there just growing and healing and growing and healing, and frustratingly unable to pop it on the head. But I think there's new cards that are coming out that'll help with that. I do think what would be an interesting way to tackle something like a llama cron or a llama cube would be to have a card that targets the highest health opponent. You know, have an ability that, you know, because we have opportunity which targets the lowest health.
Weakest, yeah.
So I think, but if we had one that attacks the highest health, then that would upset some of those builds where you've got that one card that you really want to be the last one surviving. And that's part of your
was it Monster Smasher or Monster Basher or something?
Smasher. There's a King Killer, Kingslayer, like I know the one you're talking about. It does double damage to any card over 10 mana, I think.
Yeah,
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. And there's a few others, like, Oppress does double damage to non-attacking cards.
Which one?
Oppress. So Oppress is it's an ability that quite a few have it.
Is that new?
It's been around for a while. I think it came in with Chaos Legion. So Oppress, I'm just trying to think who has it. Gremlin Fireballer, I think, has it. There's a few spread around the place. Oh, there's one. I'm just trying to. No, I've lost it now. I think it's.
So I'll look it up and I'll insert it in the video.
Yeah. So Oppress will do it. I mean that giant. I think Giant Killer might be the one you're talking about. The new ability you're talking about.
It is Giant Killer. Yeah.
Anything over 10 mana. That won't hurt the cube though. The cube's only 6 mana, so that doesn't do any extra damage. But things that have, say, recharge, which is another, quite strong ability. It doesn't fire one round, but then it only fires every triple damage, but it does triple damage. Yeah. Which can, if you got your cube right down to sort of, 8 health, and then with your other cards, and then you get somebody comes in and like the new fire guy who has recharge, he does a max level who does 3 magic damage. That becomes 9 magic damage every second round, which is a really good way to break those impasses, which is great what the game's doing with all this. But to break that, I hit you, you heal. I hit you, you heal. It breaks that, You can't heal it. You can't sort of pre-heal in anticipation of a big hit coming up. You've just got to hope that you've got that reservoir of life there. So there's all sorts of different, I guess, strategies. Spirit Druid Grog, I think, is one of those cards that doesn't get the love he deserves because he's only has the 1 health. But like anything, I think if you're willing to roll the dice, and this is true across multiple splinters, not just Earth, but if you're willing to roll the dice with some of these 1 health cards, and like the Haunted Spirit, for example, or Enchanted Defender, they can, if you can keep them alive, they can really do you some good. So I think, and especially an Equalizer rule set, right? That's a no-brainer. As soon as I see Equalizers, if I see Equalizer and Blast, I'm going to grab Spirit Druid.
Exploding Dwarf.
Right, it's absolutely Exploding Dwarf. He already has Blast though at higher levels, so there's not. I think level 6 he gets Blast.
Okay.
So that's kind of doubling up, which you probably tend to want to avoid. But it's okay. It's it's a free for all, messy. But no, Spirit Druid Grog. I love anyone who has Life Leech. I'm straight away. I see Blast. I think Life Leech because if he's hitting 2 or maybe even 3 targets depending on the rule set, he's just drawing in. He's a sponge for extra life, right?
Yeah.
And then if he starts at Equalizer, he's already got the same amount as everybody, and all he's just sponge, just wicking off multiple other cards. And he's headwinds, so he's reducing range damage, on the other team across the board. So yeah, Spirit Druid Grog I think is really underrated, undervalued card on the Earth side. Obviously, Flesh Golems. For those who weren't aware, I've got a great deal of Alpha Flesh Golems. They've had a new lease of life after Llama came out because the 13 mana match, Llama Flesh Golem hit battle. I don't even think about it now. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to win it for you because of the self heal. So very, very happy with my big purchase of Alpha Flesh Golems over the course of the last 3 years, and still doing it from time to time. I picked up some gold foils the other day that were only $280 each or something along those lines. So so that was a bit of a steal. I think the Earth Splinter, I love that there are poisons, and I think poisons feel authentic in Earth in a way that they don't in Death. Things like your mushrooms here. I mean, it would make sense that a mushroom does poison, right? And silence then too. So he's dampening the incoming magic damage, and he's also poisoning. Yeah. That to me is, a Goblin Chef, for example, poison and afflict in the same card. He's like the poor man's Dr. Blight,
When When does the mushroom seer get poisoned? Because I have that card,
Yeah,
but I don't
he's
have poison.
probably. I've had him at max for a long time, so
Okay.
whenever I talk, I'm sort of thinking diamond, but
Yeah.
I think probably level, I'd guess 5 or 6. Silence all along. Silence and poison are the two I think of when I think of mushrooms here.
I think he has heal tank or
Mm.
reduce. He has either heal or reduce, which is what I use him
Mushroom.
for.
Yeah, are you thinking of there's another mushroom card as well that you might be thinking of. He does rust that strips away
No,
armor.
no, not rust. Mushroom seer is definitely the one I'm thinking of, but I use him either because he has heal or because he reduces something. I thought
incoming magic damage. He's got silence. That'd be why you use him. Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't heal, but that silence is incredibly useful, particularly if it's something like broken arrows where you're expecting, magic inbound, or even if it's no melee where you're expecting, okay, they don't have melee, they just have ranged and magic. Silence is the gift that keeps on giving. So I think, look, it might just be familiarity for me with Earth, but I think the versatility of Earth is great. There are great low mana cards and great high mana cards. There are great slow cards for reverse speed. Stone Golem, for example, is great. Who's that massive boar guy? I know them all from their pictures, but the Oaken Behemoth. He's a high level card, but I think he's only level 3, and he does just great. He's got reach, magic damage, and melee, so he does 2 damage types. He'll trample. Lots to love there with him, and again, because it's reverse speed, he's not that fast. Then you've got others that are like the Dominica Headhunter is insane, right? For 8 mana, she does so much range damage. She's quick as a whip, shatter. So there's with Earth, they're like a very versatile all around sort of a team. If you look at something like Fire, in reverse speed, you're kind of struggling to come up with something that's going to, that you can really pull together. Yeah. I know Living Lava is popular in lower, particularly in lower leagues.
Yeah,
he's
for the first card.
He's still okay higher, but he's not fantastic at Diamond League. So when I look at upper level competition and I've got reverse speed, Fire's not the first thing that comes to mind. I know I can do stuff in water, and I know I can do stuff in life, but I'm going to go straight to Earth for the most part because I know that I've got good, slower cards as an option in Earth. Likewise, I'm not worried about regular. Do I have enough fast cards, because you have that as well. So you have a great mix, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking Captain's Ghost, I think, is the one with the press. He's a Captain's Ghost in the water team. Magic, oppress, and affliction, I think. Yeah. Sorry, just jumping back there, but yeah. So Earth is it's always my first thought, right? I got a rule set, I got a mana cap. Okay, which of the Earth cards is going to work best here? And if nothing really springs to mind, then I'll start, looking further afield. So Death, I just don't touch at all. I have the alpha cards. I have them all maxed. So if I'm playing an alpha tournament, then Death is something I'll look at. It's still not my favorite or my preferred, but I'll still use it and can use it in an alpha tournament. But for the most part, Death is not my strongest. It's definitely my weakest. The other 4 I tend to use Earth first, and then which of the other 3 if Earth isn't the best option. Nectar Queen is incredible, by the way, too. So
which one?
Llama Nectar Queen. She's 9 mana, but she's retaliate. She's got a lot of health, retaliate and poison. So and of course that makes sense, right? Nectar Queen, she's just a massive bee. She's fast, and she'll retaliate, which is bee-esque. And I don't know, the cards in Earth just strike me as being more authentically correct and right for being Earth. That's just my my take. So you look at Nectar Queen, she's fantastic. I would say I sort of feel like you got Yerden Zaku, for example. He's he gives everybody blast, and he's very difficult to to beat. But you give somebody Yerden Zaku who already plays lots of fire, and he's not going to change their strategy. It's not. All he does is okay, we're just doing what fire does, but more of that, right? Even more. Llama is its own Like I play Lyanna for years, and I know there's others, you know, Wizard of Eastwood.
She's the only one that I can use because she's level 4. Whereas, so every time I play Earth, I always use Lyanna.
Yeah, and so there's others. There's Wizard of Eastwood, and there's Mylor. Is it Mylor Cowling? With the Thorns. He's been really popular, and I don't have him maxed, so I don't really use him a lot. But
yeah,
I would say that Earth, in the differences in the summoners, particularly between Lyanna and Llama, it is a different game, right? If you're picking Llama, then you're like, especially if it's a low mana match, I'll look at it and say, oh, it's 15 mana or 16 mana. I'm like, well, I really just want to start with Last Stand. The amount of times I have taken a Llama and Nectar Queen in, say, melee only, right? If it's a melee only match, I pick Llama and Nectar Queen. What happens is they will have an opportunist and a sneak and a, you know, whatever. But for the most part, they're going to miss her because she's so quick anyway. Then you give her Last Stand, she's even faster still. Occasionally, when she does get clipped, she's got a heap of health now because of Last Stand. She'll very often retaliate and rarely miss, and sometimes even poison them. So you've got all these other cards trying to hit her. Occasionally, one will do it. She'll hit back and poison him. He'll try and hit her for another couple of rounds while he's dying of poison, right? And so she doesn't even need to have any other. She doesn't need to be targeting any other cards except for the one at the front. And a lot of the workarounds for, you know, a single card attack like a Llama Cron or something like that. Not so much Llama Cron, but, you know, Llama Flesh Golem, for example. I can take Llama Flesh Golem, but if you've got Repair on your team anywhere, that's it. I'm not going to be able to punch through. I'll probably still win with Fatigue, which is, you know, I guess helps me.
I've won a game I gave up on with a neutral card, the head in the jar, had him on the end, and all my cards just went boom, boom, boom. And I thought, oh, this is over. But because he's got Void and all this, like, I won purely on fatigue.
Yeah, it's lovely. And I look, they're great. Those ones where you go, oh, well, I've lost this and skipped the end, and you, hang on, why is my name green? That's not
How
right.
did I win that?
Yeah, how did I win that? You go back and have a look. And that's the joy of the game too, right? There's levels of randomness to it, and there's levels. I mean, Lord Arianthus, for example, at the highest level has Thorns. So if you've got, they might have, you know, a lot of opposing cards, but if they're only doing one ranged or one melee damage, well, because of his what's it called, shield, or I think shield's the ability, reduces that incoming melee and range damage, then they're not hitting him, right? They're not hurting him.
Yeah.
And if they are hitting him, they're copping 2 damage back in Thorns and not hurting him at all. So, yeah, but I think with and I love Lord Arianthus. I keep forgetting to use him because he's all the way down the bottom of the page.
Yes.
Like, okay, I want to pick, and I'll, you know, scroll down a little bit, and then I'll oh, hang on, if I'd have scrolled a little bit further, I would have that would have been perfect for this.
And quite often for my first card, like, I actually click on the melee button, so I only see melee, so you don't see him.
Yeah,
it doesn't come up on your list. Yeah, so same deal. Yeah,
I've got to use those filters more, I think, because I don't use them much. I usually just click 0 just to find my fiends and chicken instead of scrolling through to just fill in those gaps in the team. Although with things like new cards like Bloodlust that we've got now in with the Grum, who's brutal. With things like Bloodlust, you need to be careful now, because if you throw in that free chicken and he kills it, then you've just strengthened your enemy in a big way. You've given him more armor, more health, more speed, and more damage.
Yeah.
So that I think the days of well, I'll just throw in the free chicken, and worst case scenario, you know, he just takes
feeds the scavenger.
Yeah, exactly. Or he feeds the scavenger. Now you've got that problem where you could actually really be. And so for that reason, you kind of almost want to have those more hard nut to crack guys up front that are going to be targeted by Grum, so that you can chip away at him while he's not taking scalps and getting ridiculously strong. But I guess what I was saying before with the Llama Nectar Queen is, I love that her poison will bypass. It doesn't matter. Poison will, you know, unless you're obviously, if you're a self healer, then that's different. She's still going to have to get through your armor as well. But if you're just relying on repair, because repair is actually quite cheap. There's quite a few cards that are, you know, cheap repair, and especially in low mana, they just, I'll throw in an armor smith, and that can really mess up your plans if you've got something like a stone golem that you're giving last stand to, for example. But last stand Nectar Queen, she's only got to get that poison in once, and then she just gets missed by everybody for a few rounds, and then that poison's done its damage and they've lost their tank, and then it's just she's great. So I think Llama, going up to even like Llama Behemoth, get the Llama and the Oaken Behemoth. Again, he's starting with last stand now, so even though he's not particularly fast, he speeds up with last stand, and he's doing 2 attacks, both of which are now increased because of last stand. But then you're looking at, it's like 19 mana to play that, and you may as well then, that's not now a low mana match anymore. Most people would say low mana is sort of 12 to 15, 16. By the time you're getting out to 19, you could be facing a full roster of opposing units.
Yeah,
so they've fairly cheap summoner, and then they've thrown in 2 mana and 3 mana cards and pulled together a decent team. So sometimes last stand works a treat with just 1 card, starts at last stand and gets a lot of benefit. Other times it really doesn't. I had one, I'll send you the link to that. You can splice that one in here, which was just so fun the other day. I hope I can still find it. It was Noxious Fumes and up close and not up close and personal. Ranged can attack from first position. The rule set where ranged cards, and the I think it was about 15 mana, maybe 16 mana, and I did Llama, Spirit of the Forest. So she's a self healer.
I love Spirit of the Forest.
Yeah. So she's a tank healer, but in first place she's and instantly Llama strips off poison, right? Off her, the Noxious Fumes. So she doesn't have to worry about poison now.
Yeah.
The opponents do. She doesn't. She's fast as anything with last stand, just ridiculously fast, and she's doing a lot of damage, right? Doing a lot of damage output. And whatever damage they managed to hit her with, she's self-healing. And it was ridiculous. The other team had an entire roster full of cards. Every slot was full, just up against my Spirit of the Forest, and she just iced them. Bam. And while she's killing these, this guy's dropped dead from Noxious Fumes, and now this guy's dropped dead from Noxious Fumes, and all of their debuffs are falling off, so they're getting slower and they're getting less armor, and she's just bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, oh, this is just so good. David and Goliath, and it looks like it's one unit, but it's really your summoner is such a big part of that.
Part of it. Yeah.
The earth summoners are, Eastwood strips off armor, which can be very beneficial. Wisdom of Eastwood, the summoner. Mylor, again, Thorns, great for melee only and the like. He's people do great things with him and Stone Golem. If there's no magic, then they're just hitting Stone Golem all day, and all they're getting is hurt. And so there are so many different options for summoners, and viability in different rule sets and cards across the gamut of size, mana size. One I love, which again I don't think gets anywhere near the kind of the kind of love that he deserves is Minotaur Warlord. He does a lot of stuff. He has blast, which is great. Melee. He's not particularly fast, but he reflects ranged and magic. So in a way, if you can keep him alive and up the front, it doesn't so much matter what they're attacking with. That's going to hurt them, right? And so I think what I'd like to do is look at, what's that, Amplify? Should look at Amplify. But newer ability, see if there's any on Earth. I haven't done the research on that. But
because I'm still hodling my Chaos Pack, so I really don't know Chaos Pack that well yet.
Well, I think it's even might have been in the reward cards maybe. Amplify is very. It's in Chaos Legion, but I think it might have preceded. It's hard because they'll give teasers and stuff a month before the cards actually drop, and then you're like, did it come with this edition or which? But yeah, Amplify is a new ability that will it amplifies the damage done by retaliatory stuff. So Thorns, if you've got say Mylor and an Amplify card on your team, then the Thorns do 3 damage instead of 2.
Okay.
Magic Reflect does more Magic Reflect damage, and so it's like whenever we retaliate, not through the retaliate ability, which is just a straight up melee retaliation, but when you suffer from a damage, you launch an attack and then it comes back at you, either Thorns, Magic Reflect or Range Reflect, then that's going to hurt more. So I should look at whether I can find a decent Earth card with Amplify to play with this. But something I've loved doing is Minotaur Warlord up the front, and then all you need behind him is a whole lot of healers, and there's plenty of healers to choose from in health, right? In Earth, especially this new fat guy. He's real handy. He does, can't think of his name now. He does magic damage, and he also does tank heal. But you've got Wood Nymph, she does tank heal. You've got Khmer Princess does tank heal. Spirit of the Forest does tank heal. So if you're confident that they're not going to snipe or sneak, if it's a Fog of War match, for example, they might play opportunists. That's a risk you got to take. But if you put that Minotaur Warlord up the front, especially with Llama giving him 2 more health, and then maybe with Wood Nymphs with strength and giving him more health, so that you can get him up nice and high with the health, and he already has plenty. If you get him up nice and high with the health, so they're just attacking him, right? Just attacking him. But you've got 3 in the back row all healing him. All that's happening is your enemy's attacking him and he's just sending it back. And you're hollowing out their whole back row. On top of that, when he does attack, he'll hit their tank, who's usually quite well shielded, quite well guarded, but the guy behind him gets hurt. So times where you've got, say, Corrupted Pegasus, who is the bane of anyone's existence, Corrupted Pegasus, tank heal for death. He's hard to target because he's melee. So you've got a strong melee death tank at the front, like a Lord of Darkness, and you've got Corrupted Pegasus behind him. There are very few ways to actually kill that Corrupted Pegasus. And while the tank's protecting him, the Corrupted Pegasus is also healing the tank, right? Yep. And so that's this, a nice symbiotic relationship that a lot of people have found and exploited, and it's very difficult to get around. And it's normally, if there's a support card in the back row that's helping the tank, then all you just need is, we'll just multi-snipe and we'll get rid of him. But being a melee card, you can't target him with snipe. He's basically a second tank. Not a great deal of health and not a great deal of defense, but if you can't target him, you can't kill him. Minotaur Warlord, though, will hit their death tank, and then, because he hits hard, that blast damage is substantial, and there's nobody healing Corrupted Pegasus up the back, right? So that to me, that's won me a lot of matches, is Minotaur Warlord with a whole lot of healers behind him. And then they're just raining down the damage, but he's got the health. He's just sending it straight back to them, and you just see their back row die. He's going to, next round he's going to die, and he's going to die.
It's great when you see him falling from the back, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely, because as they slow down, they get less melee damage, and they, all the little abilities that are
all the buffs each card takes with it when it goes.
Yeah. It's nice, and eventually you're like, I'm going to win this. I don't have to see the rest, and I'll click to the end.
Yeah. You mentioned one of the main reasons you like Earth is for the versatility of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask on this because I know my suits reasonably well, but what really throws me for a 6 often in a game is in the rule set when you have odds or evens. Because even though I know my decks fairly well, it's not until I'm in it I thought, and gave the example of in my life deck, I have no even, I don't come even or odds, but one of the two, no sneak. So I'm playing a sneak quest. I'm in life because it was the only option. And I still did something else and won the game, but I didn't get a token for the quest because there was no even
because you didn't.
sneaks.
I think, now I think about it, I reckon there is an even sneak in Earth. I think he's a goblin, 4 mana Earth sneak melee card, but I can't think of his actual name now. Goblin Thief, maybe.
Right.
Might be Goblin Thief. Maybe.
Well,
don't quote me on that.
I mustn't have it because I was like, oh no.
So what I like to do, and again, my encyclopedic Earth knowledge here. What I like to do is I find cards that have great synergy. They work really well together. So, for example, Magi of the Forest, who's 4 mana magic card. He doesn't have any other abilities, just and there's another one. I can picture him so well. But he does less magic damage, but he's got he hurts everybody by 1 damage when he gets killed. I got stuck on this last time as well. What that's called? It's not restoration. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
exactly the same skill the last episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
The word is like
redemption.
Making things right. Redemption. That's it. Redemption.
Yes.
I can't think of what the I should have my laptop here so I can look it up. So he does stun, you see, and so if it's a knockout rule set, he'll do stun, and then the Magi of the Forest will hit with his 4 magic damage, which becomes 8 magic damage, which is enough to knock over a lot. But what I like to do is part of my, and this touches on what you were talking about. Part of my looking for cards with synergy is to also look for cards that have that are both odd or both even, to see that they can work together. So these two, Spirit Shaman is the guy I'm talking about.
Okay.
So Spirit Shaman and Magi of the Forest, both 4 mana. You can use them in Little League, and you can use them when you're just looking for evens. You see, if you're looking for odds with good synergy, one pairing that I just found recently is Epona, the 1 mana legendary, and Spirit of the Forest. So Epona gives more health to everybody on the team. She's got strength, so that's helping Spirit of the Forest with her tank heal, right? Because whoever you're healing, you're healing them by more if they have more health.
Yeah.
But on top of that, she has repair, and Spirit of the Forest gives everybody armor.
Right? She's so like 7 mana though, isn't she? Spirit of the Forest.
That's right, but 7 and 1 are both odd numbers, you see. So they can both be played in the same rule set. So it's about looking for cards that work well with each other, but also can be played in the same, in the same rule set. Now, obviously, Epona can be played in Little League, whereas Spirit of the Forest can't. Right. But if it is, if you're just looking for odd cards, you can play them both together. So that's something that I've been really trying to build into my own gameplay. Is I don't want to have the same lineup that I just play every time.
Yeah.
But I want to have pairs or even triples of cards that really just work together really, really well. I don't know if I've mentioned it to you before, but 12 mana, I love Lyanna Natura, Failed Summoner, Goblin Chef, and Wood Nymph, because that exact combination gives Failed Summoner 12 health, which means that he's getting healed for 4 every time Wood Nymph heals him, you see.
Okay.
And for 12 mana, to have a 12 mana match, to have a 12 health card up the front,
ridiculous.
That's reducing incoming melee and also reflecting back magic. Right? That means that you've now got generally a sustainable setup where no matter what damage they're doing, for the most part, you can heal him up. Your Wood Nymph is going to heal him up, which means you have time now. And this is, again, Earth is all about time. Eventually Earth wins, nature wins. Yeah. So the Goblin Chef at only 3 mana, if you can have a hard and fast match, he doesn't hit very hard. He's not, doesn't have any, nothing exciting or explosive, but poison and afflict, right? So if you're going to have a match that goes to 10 rounds, 15 rounds, he's going to kill people, right? Because he might not hit them all the time. He's not particularly fast. Maybe he'll miss a few times. Maybe he'll hit, but he won't poison. This time around, he'll hit, but he'll only afflict. but he's still doing the damage, right? He's still, over time, he's going to do that damage. And if you've got a sustainable situation where they're hitting at the front, they're hitting that just over and over at the failed summoner, he's reflecting back the magic and reducing incoming melee. That I find is a really sustainable, and again, that can all change with meta, and as more people get better with Chaos Legion cards and the like. But that's a specific combo that I've found to work really, really well. And you could say that's a 4-card combo because it works with Lyanna and Azura. It's not going to necessarily work with Wizard of Eastwood, for example, right? I wouldn't use Wizard of Eastwood for that. I would maybe use Milo Cowling. Because
why is that? Because Lyanna only gives 1 health, doesn't?
Yes, yeah, but it's enough to get Failed Summoner up to 12. See,
right.
Failed Summoner does strengthen, Lyanna does strengthen, and Wood Nymph does strengthen. So we've got 3 strengthens now, which is adding 3 health to everyone on the team. That's enough to get Failed Summoner up from 9 health to 12, which means he's getting healed now for 4 instead of getting healed for 3. And it's amazing how often the difference between the 3 health and the 4 health really matters, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's two games in a way really going on. There's the in the moment, who do I pick? Click, click, click. I'm not sure. But then there's also,
and the time is ticking down.
Yeah, exactly. There's also time where you've got some measured reflection and you go, why did that work so well? Why did that not work so well? And you look at it and you say, okay, this guy has this at this level. If I can get him up to this next benchmark, this next, then when he does get healed, he gets healed for 4 instead of getting healed for 3. Now, over the course of 10 rounds, that's a difference in 10 health, right? Which is massive. That's overall, as far as totals go, the difference between being healed for 3 10 times and being healed for 4 10 times, that's a difference of 10. So that things like that are not something that you're going to do in the spur of the moment where you go, oh, the clock's ticking and I've got to pick my, but knowing that you can stack strengthen and really, really make use of it. So, for example, another strategy that is very popular for good reason is lots of Inspire, another little flag that does +1 to melee. If you get somebody like a very rarely used card, what is he? I can see him. Usual deal. Anyway, he's an older, I think, beta neutral, and he hits twice. It does melee hits twice. Reasonably strong, reasonably fast, but double strike is the key to it all. You can actually, if you pull things together just right, you can have, let's say, triple Inspire on him. You can pull in, say, a life team where you've got your knight, your horse, who does Inspire, and then you've got
Silver Shield Knight.
Pixie that does, that's the one. There's the Pixie that does Inspire, right? So you get him really, really inspired. So instead of doing, say, 4 melee damage, now he's doing 7 melee damage and he hits twice. Now that can hit like an absolute truck. You need to get it right, and there are things that your opponents can do, to minimize that. But if you're trying to get through, a guy who has, say, a shield and a lot of health, that's the way to hitting really hard and then hitting really hard again can make a massive difference. And things like where everybody gets opportunity, for example, is really good like that, because you want to have those double strike as much as possible. So you're hitting, a lot of different. So that's I guess more a measured afterwards approach where you go, right, which cards that I have Inspire. If I wanted to go as hard as I can on an Inspire team, if I'm loading up, I'm loading up cards like this. If I'm loading up a really fast front tank that I want to be, that I'm going to try and keep alive, so knowing in advance rather than just picking what feels right at the time, okay, how much strengthen can I load up here? Or you might have a build in mind that will be great, but it's a little vulnerable to magic damage.
Yeah.
So now you go, how many cards with silence can I squeeze into this lineup?
Yeah.
Right. So then those cards that are doing 4 magic damage, now they're only doing 2 magic damage. And if I can put a card with Void up the front, that's down to 1 magic damage. And now I've got a team with some longevity here. So it's about doing your research before the matches so that you're familiar with your cards.
Yeah.
You get what
I'm
I'm
saying.
found
with Silver Shield Knight, sorry, we're going into a little bit of life here, but there might be an Earth equivalent because he gives Inspire and has piercing as well. So he's a good tank. But being the tank, if he gets taken out first, suddenly your whole deck's just lost Inspire. So,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have reach
Yeah.
or anything, so he has to go first, you know?
No, and I'll generally only use him in melee mayhem, and I'll try and use him right up near the back.
Yeah.
So he's inspiring all my other methods, and because he has Trench to Q1, that he goes again, right? So that's I sort of use him as a bit of a glass cannon in that, not because he's particularly vulnerable, but because he's so important to the rest of the team that he's cracking through and doing that extra melee damage. He pairs well with the Unicorn, actually. Sacred
Oh,
Unicorn.
I hate the Unicorn when I come up against it. It's got the void straight up, and it's just like
yeah. He's got Divine Shield. He doesn't have void. He's got Divine Shield, the Sacred Unicorn. There's a base.
Because it always
baby
misses.
Unicorn.
I always miss.
Oh, okay.
So it's just miss. It's like, oh.
Well, I mean, he's got the self heal. I don't think he's particularly fast, but the joy of that I find is if those guys work together, the Unicorn and the Silver Shield Knight, because they each have trample, right? And because they're hitting harder with melee, and I'm not sure. I think the Unicorn might even have Pierce. If they both have Pierce, right? Eventually, it's just this 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and anytime one of them kills somebody, he goes again. It's just brutal to try and overcome that. But that's I guess that's the joy of the game.
So, what's your favorite tank?
My favorite tank, it's hard. It's got to probably be in high mana. It's got to be Minotaur Warlord. I think there's so much there. Yeah. He's not particularly, he doesn't really have anything in the way of defense, which is obviously an issue and a problem. But depending on what you can, do to I guess, keep him alive. So if you've got lots of healers, like I said, but you're also playing a bit of silence and a bit of headwinds, you can keep him alive for a long time, right? So you get a bit of silence from your mushrooms here and a bit of headwinds from your Spirit Druid Grog, who will then resurrect. If he does get killed, he can then be resurrected. And if you have healers, depending on the timing, he can suddenly get healed right back up again, and now they've got to deal with him all over again. So I would say Minotaur Warlord would be my favorite Earth tank.
Okay.
I mean, that's a high level, right? So Minotaur Warlord and Oaken Behemoth behind him. Again, it's that synergy between multiple cards. Those two together would be my go-to in a very high mana match. Mid-level match, I like something like the Harvester or Nectar Queen probably would be my favorite, with a self-healer behind, like a Flesh Golem behind.
Yeah.
So blast damage, for example, the tank is doing their stuff, but the Flesh Golem's there as a second tank, right? So if he gets a bit of blast damage, he's healing himself up, but he's there in the wings, he's waiting to go. He doesn't have much in the way of defense except from, say, magic damage. But the idea would be, in a sort of mid-mana match, my other cards need to lay enough smack down, right, that by the time the Nectar Queen or the Harvester is wiped out, that they're no longer capable of doing sufficient incoming damage to take out my Flesh Golem, who's that second tank, right? Yeah. Because he has a lot of health, and because he has that heal and that void, hopefully, fingers crossed, I've done enough damage in their back row that I'm now not too worried about the Flesh Golem staying alive, because he's been healing himself of any blast damage. When he arrives, he's generally in pristine condition, but enough of the battle's gone on that they've taken enough hurt, they've taken enough damage or pain to stop them from chipping through him. And if they can't chip through him, then it's game over, right? So that's so I love to use a self healer in second position. Sea Monster is one that I use often in water as well. So I'll put Kraken and then Sea Monster behind him. He's a second tank, but he's also a self healer. So when he does get to the front, he's for the most part, he's going to
be there for a while,
full life. And so again, hopefully you've done enough damage output in that time. You've used the time that your heroic tank bought you to stay alive. Now you've got your second tank arriving, and because he's a self healer, he's A, arriving fresh, and B, he can survive being chipped away at by the remains of their, of who they have. So mid mana, that's my instinct. Something good and big and brutal that can lay down a lot of damage with a Flesh Golem behind him. And then in very low mana matches, I'm generally looking for that Llama Flesh Golem, or if it's 12 mana, I'd do the layout I mentioned earlier, which doesn't necessarily have a tank, which is good in staying unpredictable. You just failed summoner up the front. If they've got somebody with Thorns and Retaliate, he's getting no action, he's getting no business, right? Because I don't have a melee guy up the front. So I think overall high mana, yeah, Minotaur Warlord favorite tank, and then yeah, mid-level Nectar Queen works. It depends on the rule set. I mean, if it's slow, I'm going to go Stone Golem most of the time. Again, with lots of healers. Yeah, and I generally focus on what I like to do is if it's low mana and they're reverse speed, then they're generally not expecting sneak attacks, because most sneaks, with the exception of Sandworm, are fast. So if you have a mana cap that won't allow for a big 9 mana Sandworm, who's reasonably slow, then most of the sneaks available are fast sneaks, and you're not going to play them in reverse speed because they're just going to miss. So it's generally safe that people aren't expecting a sneak in reverse speed fairly low mana. So that's when I like to use Goblin Sorcerer. He's only 3 mana, but at max level he's 3 magic damage, which in a round or two can easily pop off their last card, particularly if they're relying on some of these low mana but really useful support cards, like your Haunted Spirit, for example. You know, so is it Haunted Spirit?
Haunted Spirit has heal though, doesn't it?
No, sorry, Fallen Spectre is the one I'm thinking of. Fallen Spectre. Yeah, you know, the one mana, it's like a flying, looks like a ghost thing. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, right. Fallen Spectre. So often they're not expecting a sneak attack unless the mana cap allows for Sandworm. Mana cap allows for Sandworm, all bets are off, right? Because there's slow or fast sneaks can be coming inbound. Yeah. But generally they don't expect sneaks in a low mana match.
Yeah, because his speed is 2, isn't it, Sandworm?
The Sandworm he starts at 2. I think he builds up to 4.
Oh, okay. So yeah, mine's only on 2.
Yeah. That's it. And again, we're coming out at a different level, silver and diamond.
That's one of the most interesting things I've been getting from this conversation, and why I asked you about the tank is because earlier when you're talking about you're planning ahead, you're talking about round 10. Like, and I play it at the moment. I'm playing silver 1 level. If you go 5 rounds, that's epic. So, and in the earth, I absolutely love the new Venari Knifer with Thorns. I've been having a lot of success with him as the tank position. Because damage.
I have to have a look again. I've got no real insights on him. I can't even picture what he looks like. So
it's because the Venaris came out in reward packs initially. It was but in the Chaos pack, there's a Venari Knifer, which has some nice stats and has Thorns. Yep. So I've been using him successfully, and that simply because it's at my level. 5 rounds is if it goes more than 5 rounds, that's a pretty epic battle. Except when you've got Life Equalizer, then you can expect to go maybe a couple more rounds. But just hearing you with your strategies for 10 rounds and more, I'm thinking there must be so many counters and so forth going on that a game would last that long.
Yeah. And look, there are people in the game who will see my name come up on the screen and they'll know exactly what I'm going to play, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, some people might go, why is Matt telling all his secrets? I'm hopelessly predictable.
I saw your comment on the latest post. So this is wonderful news.
People don't know it's me, so they don't know exactly what I'm going to play. And that's entirely true. So there are incredibly good players in the game who know what I'm going to do. And one area that I really need to look at is less focus on me and my cards and more focus on what am I going to come up against here? What are they going to play? Look at the available splinters, look at the mana cap and try and anticipate what they're going to play. The problem I have is every time a new edition of cards comes out, by the time it's sort of pretty much out of print and we're starting to look at the next one, I'm good enough with it that I can piece together my own team, but I'm not good enough to know what the other guy's likely to play. Mm-hmm. And then just as I start thinking about, okay, what's this guy going to play? Then there's a new edition of cards come out and everything changes. And I don't know new abilities. I don't know new cards. So that makes anticipating what I'm going to come up against so much harder that it almost becomes a moot point. And I may as well just say, look, I'll just look after my own team and just hope that it goes well. So that change I'm definitely looking forward to, where people don't know that they're up against me. And yeah, we'll see if it improves my win rate, because I really do think I'm getting outclassed by some incredible players, and that's good for the game, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
really good for the game to have good players. And I think the level of, I guess, detail that I look at things, some people would look at that and say, wow, he's got this whole thing planned out with this is going to happen and this is, and then that's going to, but I don't have anything planned out compared to, the mind of a Yasik or the mind of a Byzantinist. Chris Love, for example, Clove 17, she's incredible. The way they know the game and the cards is, it's eerie to me. The only place I really hold my own is in alpha tournaments, and that's because I've had 3 years to get used to those cards.
Yeah.
And now I'm familiar with them. And if I see that, okay, there's water or earth available for this match, look at the mana cap, I am far better equipped to know what he has, assuming he's got maxed everything, to know what are the possibilities, what am I likely to come up against, and how should I counter most of those. And that's where I tend to do best of all is in alpha tournaments when they do come around. So
one of the greatest ways to improve is always to play someone better than yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I love coming up against these people in tournaments or in ranked play. It might sound a little masochistic, but I like being beaten by them, because I like knowing that there are people that are, that good in the game, that it's just, hang on, you've blown me away here. I didn't anticipate that would happen. And again, like you say, you learn from taking on, being beaten. It's only when you lose that you learn.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And they're lovely people too. They're a credit to the game. So there's no, I know some games that the top end is full of egotistical maniacs and the like. But I've spoken to pretty much all of the upper echelon players, at least the ones who
the ones who kick your ass,
socialize, the ones who socialize, and everyone's great. There's disagreements, but there's not. People aren't walking around with big egos. They might be off screen. I don't know, but it's not translating. And so you get somebody like Yasik, and we'll have a newbie come in, and they'll ask some question, and he will go, oh, here's a link to a spreadsheet, or here's here's something else, here's a valuable, useful tool. And I think here's this guy who's arguably the best player in the game, and this guy who's just arrived, this newcomer, he has no idea who he's talking to. No one's going, oh, how dare you? Do you know who you're talking to? It's like if you, well, we got the Australian Open right at the moment. It's like if you walked in and Rafael Nadal goes, okay, so you're seat F6. Okay, I'll show you over there now. Do you want me to take your umbrella? It's like that level of, Yasik should be reclining on a chaise lounge somewhere being fed peeled grapes by supermodels. But here he is, like in general, going, oh, hey man, here's what you need, and here's, and so. And Byzantinist exactly the same. Chris Love, she's doing streaming, she's doing all these other things, and so there's this upper echelon of people, but they're so humble,
down to
and
earth,
just enjoying exactly down to earth. Lovely, there it is. There's your sound bite. There's your little that's the name of the episode. So it's that's one of many things that I love about the game. But yes, like you say, Earth is Earth is the best Splinter. That's why it's my favorite. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and you mentioned right at the beginning, like the fire and all that, when you're young, but as you mellow, you sort of you go into that. Yeah, you may have noticed I've actually started dyeing my hair grey to give myself the to a more distinguished sort of mellow look.
Yes, yeah, of course. It's hard when you're eternally young, as you and I are, to display to others that here's somebody who's got that wisdom, somebody that you should be listening to. Like Yasik, for example, when the newcomer thinks this guy giving him advice is, that might be good advice, without knowing it's definitely good advice. So, you and I, we need to make sure that we're got a bit of grey going on there. We need to make sure that we're looking as distinguished and wise as we are, so that others know to pay attention to everything we say. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, our good looks carries us in so many ways, but when you're offering advice, you need to distinguish, not the good looks.
Well, that's one of the many reasons that I got into this game was, I'm sick of winning because I'm handsome. I want to go to an arena where I, where that's not even a factor. Where it's not even an advantage in any way, because it's people can't see each other, and I don't have that. I don't have that unfair advantage over others.
Very unfair. Yeah. All right, so let's wrap it up on that then. Any closing words or anything to add?
No, I think I probably need to do a bit more research on the other splinters, because I've heard there are other splinters apart from Earth before we touch on any of that. So I'll have to put my nose to the grindstone and see if there's any other good cards out there that aren't green, and go from there. But look, if you're new to the game and you want to pick a favorite splinter, just pick the best one. Make it easy on yourself and go for Earth.
All right. And for the viewers out there, if you want to make a suggestion for the Splinter for the next episode, comment below. And remember too, we do have the curation contest, which runs every week. Whichever comment on the post receives the most engagement, that person will receive 10% of the reward from that post. So jump on, if you just want to say, look, no, I agree 100%. You guys really are good looking, or if you, for some reason, you disagree, you think you're better looking, whatever. We don't care if you agree or disagree. Just engage. Just engage, and it gives us the opportunity to prove you wrong as well by turning it up at night. But we just love engagement, okay? And if a question comes up, something Matt said that you don't understand, Matt, of course, you can jump onto Discord, but on the post, ask on the post. We will answer. We're not these. You see some of these posts and all these comments, and you never see the author. I'll tell you, I reply to every single comment on all of my posts, and I encourage the engagement. And who knows, if your comment gets the most engagement, you will receive 10% of the rewards of this post. All right, wrap it up there.
Should we click?
I'm Bob Fett. Peace out. Ready, Matt, for the click?